Welcome to Mile High Reefers. I'm Scott Anderson, and it's time to do a tank update on this 210-gallon reef tank. It's been about a month since my last tank update, and a few things have changed. So there's been good, bad, and ugly, and I think we're gonna start with the ugly. So one of the big things I've loved about this tank is I've had 9 tanks really doing well in here. Well, I'm sad to say that one of my tanks has died. About 2 weeks ago, I lost one of my purple tanks. Now, this really is a sad thing because I loved that fish. It was a really beautiful fish, but he had been having some issues. He'd been looking a little scraggly, his fins were a little tattery, and I honestly don't know what the cause was. I didn't see any aggression between him and the other tanks in the tank. But still, the other day he passed away. So there's a lot of things that could have caused it. It could have been nutrition, although he looked like he was eating great. My guess is it was a genetic issue. Just like some people can live to be well over 100 years old and others don't live near that long, the same thing happens with fish. So it could have been just part of his natural genetics that led to that. The other fish problem I'm having is with my hybrid black tank. Now, this is a fish that I've had for about a year, and if you remember, he was a struggle to get used to this tank, and I saw a scar on him a month or two ago that I was telling you guys about. Well, unfortunately, that was not a scar. That is turning out to be HLLE, which is head and lateral line erosion. Now, this really sucks. So there's 2 reasons that a fish can get head and lateral line disease, or at least there's thought to be 2 reasons. There's probably many more. It's nutrition and water quality. So my water quality tests great. I've got low nutrients like phosphates and nitrates, calcium, alkalinity. While I've had struggles with them in the past, they're pretty much where they need to be now, but that really shouldn't cause head and lateral line disease in a fish. So the other thing that people say is it can be the carbon. So I've taken the carbon reactor off of this tank and put an ozone reactor on it. The ozone reactor I'm using is from Aquametic. Now, these are great little ozone reactors, and I'm using it in place of the carbon. The ozone reactor is going to break down the yellowing compounds that turn the water yellow and provide all of that nasty chemical stuff, and it's also going to break down the other chemicals into something that can be filtered out by the protein skimmer. Now, there's pros and cons to ozone reactors. First is ozone is somewhat of a dangerous gas, so you do not want to breathe this stuff, so you got to run it into an ozone reactor or your skimmer so that it can be actually broken down in the water into something relatively safe. So I have mine plumbed into my Aqua Sea skimmer. The other problem with ozone is it's really hard on plastics. So you have to use a skimmer that is specifically designed for ozone. And my Aqua Sea is. So I've had this running for about 2 weeks now, and the ozone is giving me 0 problems with my skimmer. As you can see, the skim mate looks nice and thick, and I didn't clean it for this exact reason, so you guys can see how much gunk it's really pulling. And the water, when I put a bucket in there and look at it, there's no yellowing compounds. So the ozone is doing its job, and the bonus is in the long run, it will be cheaper than replacing carbon on a weekly to monthly basis, and it's less maintenance. So far I'm loving it, but as for the hybrid black tank, I'm not seeing any improvement in him yet. So long term, we may have to come up with another plan. So for a long time, I've been fighting calcium and alkalinity in this tank. My calcium reactor could not keep up with the demands of calcium and alkalinity on my 210-gallon reef. To fix that, I took the calcium reactor off and then added an Aquametic reef doser. By dosing 2-part through the Aquametic reef doser, I was using the BRS 2-part product. I was able to get my calcium and alkalinity right where I needed it to be. The color on the tank went from bland to amazing. Coral growth has skyrocketed and it worked perfectly. The problem is I was using about a gallon of calcium and alkalinity mix a week. That's a lot of calcium and alkalinity. It was a lot of work to mix it all up, and it was becoming a problem. So I put the calcium reactor back on the system along with the 2-part dosing, and I'm now able to maintain calcium, alkalinity, and I'm using about a gallon of calcium and alkalinity 2-part mix a month as opposed to a week. So it's made the maintenance on the tank a lot easier. It also provides a backup. So if I run out of calcium and alkalinity mix, I still have something being dosed to the tank. If my calcium reactor has a problem, I still have something going to the tank. So it's a nice backup. I'm actually loving this setup, and it's probably what I'm gonna stick with for the long term. So now I think it's a good point to take a look at the coral in the tank, and I'll show you how things are doing and some of the new additions. Overall, this tank is doing really well. The color's right where I'm wanting it, the growth is where I'm wanting it, and I'm slowly adding more coral to this tank. So it's really starting to look really nice again, but there have been some small changes, so let's talk about those now. The newest addition to this tank is this gold frog spawn. And it's been in here a couple of days, and it will be amazing eventually. Color's great, but it needs to open up a little more. It's pulled in a little bit because this frog spawn here just fell on it. Rather than move everything before I videoed, I figured I'd video and then glue this guy back into place. Another new addition is this St. Thomas mushroom. This guy is really cool and was a gift from Chad in Orlando with Aquametic. Also new to this tank is this hammer coral. This is actually a vintage strain from northern Colorado. I got this from Orlando Salazar of Aquametic, who's been growing it for many years, and he actually got it from Jake Adams, who's been also growing this for many years. Also new to this tank are these 3 Favias. The bottom green one is a hitchhiker that came into Aquametic Live on a different coral. The one above it is another hitchhiker that came in from Aquametic Live. These are cool corals that you just don't see like this. Maybe not the brightest, but I still like them. And the Favia next to it is a worldwide coral frag. As far as the Montipora goes, the color looks amazing, but it continues to grow to the surface, and it's starting to become a bit of a problem. To illustrate the amount of growth that this colony has had, the base of it's way down here by my finger. All of this is skeleton up to about here, where we actually have fleshy growth. On the disappointing side of things, my beautiful gold hammer has lost some of its gold coloration. This is disappointing because gold hammers are my favorite. This big wall is huge, it's healthy, but it's not as colorful as it was. I'm blaming lighting. So I recently just changed out my T5 bulbs, so those are upgraded, and hopefully we'll be getting new LEDs soon. This little Sinarina is one that I brought home from Aquametic Live. The reason I brought it home is it was damaged in shipping, and I brought it home because it was never gonna sell. Well, after 3 or 4 months of it being in my tank, it's happy, it's healthy, it's doing great, and I love this little guy. And it's actually, I don't know, 4 or 5 inches across. It's actually pretty big. My fox coral is getting huge and fleshy, and I absolutely love this thing. As far as the clam and the big bubble go, they are both doing incredibly well, and they're getting huge, and I'm loving these two. So now let's pass things off to Ian Anderson to wrap this video up.
Fun fact, Darth Plagueis was one of the best fish keepers because when a fish died, he used his midichlorians to bring him back to life. Thanks for watching this episode of Mile High Reefers. Like, subscribe. See you on the next one.